Hi, how's it? In the name of Christ, how you doing? It's your girl, Karabo. Let's just get straight into this particular message. I want to tell a story of when I was like 20 something, 24, 5. At the time I was dating my ex-boyfriend. Maybe 24. I definitely was not yet working for MTN, and I started working for MTN in the run up to my 25th birthday. So I could have been like 23 or 24. The age is relevant that you might understand that I was literally too young to die at that stage. Anyway, during that time, I came down with some kind of illness, like it was a cough, a flu, a combination. It was very phlegmy, chesty, and it was sore. It commenced with me feeling bilious. I was sick. I was nauseous, and imagining that maybe perhaps I'm pregnant, because I was a fornicator at the time. I was sexually active. I was dating my ex, so I thought that maybe I was pregnant, and that's why I'm feeling this funny kind of way. But it was not just the biliousness, the nausea that was all up in my grill. It was also coughing. I was coughing like I was very, very, very chesty, phlegmy, and it was painful coughing. So I embarked on, I also worked a job at the time in the call center. Is that a call? This thing, I switched on notifications and whatnot so I can hear the phone when it's ringing, because before it was on vibrate, and it just like does strange like I don't know, it just makes that noise. I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to switch it off, so I'm checking there if maybe that was a call, but it wasn't. Like, it's just whatever. Anyway, let's carry on talking. Okay, yes, I was speaking about how it is that I was chesty, I was coughing, and I was working at the time a call center job. I was working at Nedbank as a home loans consultant, a home loans insurance policy, like, call center agent. Yeah, and it's one of those jobs where it is that you get appraised and what have you based on how much time you do on the phone. You can't just basically go to the bathroom and breathe a little for like 15 minutes. There are jobs where you can afford to do that and make those 15 minutes up later or whatever. Yeah, I was so sick on the job, so terribly sick, that basically I was essentially kind of vomiting at the desk, busy taking calls, because I was scared to tell my boss that I'm sick. I didn't want my boss, I actually had two bosses at the time, I didn't want them thinking that I was just this irresponsible that doesn't want to work and wada. So I just hunkered down, and I was just like terribly sick. Thought I was pregnant, took a pregnancy test, nothing gave. I knew though that I wasn't pregnant because one, I was on the pill. Not that the pill is a fail-safe, but I don't know, I was on the pill, and on top of that, I was not just vomiting. I wasn't just vomiting. I was also chesty, coffee. So I went to the job that I was working at, the call center agent at the call center. It was, you guys, you would know that if you've worked for a bank, cost a company, right? The full salary that they give you, whatever it is that might be your salary, it's cost a company, and what they give you as a net salary in comparison to what you find what they give you as a gross salary in comparison to what you take home as net, it's negligible. It's like peanuts, okay? Complete peanuts. So at the beginning of that job, because it was a permanent job at Nedbank, I decided that I'm not gonna take up medical aid, all right? That I'm just gonna be on a hospital plan. We had to be on some kind of plan medically, so in order to make sure to basically give myself more take-home money, because I was busy taking myself to school, I needed more money than what I was making. Basically, I compromised on a plan for insurance, for medical insurance, so that should I fall sick or whatever, I can just go see a doctor. I only hooked up a hospital plan where it is that should I get in a car accident and have to be hospitalized, that'll be catered to. Should basically things get to a point where I need to be admitted, then I'll be fine. But if at all I'm sick, I told myself that I'll just take out $500 and see a GP. I'll just take out, at the time it was like 250 to 300 rands. I'll just take out 250 to 300 bucks to go and see a general practitioner, and they'll give me a prescription, and then I will pay for that prescription cash. Seeing as I was young, vibrant, healthy, and I imagine that there's no way that I'm gonna fall sick, or at least not too hectically. I'm not gonna need medication that's going to basically break bank all up in my grill. I'm not, any side. I was on a hospital plan. That's what you need to understand, because my job was not paying very much. And here it is that I am as sick as I am, like a dog, and I am delaying going to a doctor because I don't have medical aid. And it's a time of the month where it is that, you know, that when you're living hand to mouth, when you're just between, like when you're in the middle of the month, in the most dry, most arid, most deserty time of the month, where you've got just enough for taxi fare to get to the end of the month, you have depleted all of your money and you've got enough for taxis only. All right. I was in a desert zone with just enough to keep paying taxi fare to go to and from work. I therefore did not have money to part ways with 250, 300 rand thing, right? To go and see a doctor, for crying out loud. So I decided to become my own GP, my own little doctor, because historically I have historically been very blessed by God with a very, very, very strong immune system. Frankly, I blame what I did to my body as a child and how reckless I was with it. I blame, or I attribute my very strong immune system to my irresponsible ways with my health as a child, because then I developed this very strong, because I had to like basically come up from near death as a kid, and upon recovering from things that nearly killed me as a child, I just have never really been a very sick adult. I have once before, being sad and being mad at my mom, I once swallowed a whole bunch of pills, basically threatening suicide, and I was sick like a dog. And after that, I recovered without there being much. And I believe that time, those times when I was doing stuff like that, basically caused my body to just be super strong when it comes to anything that could come at it. From the time I was a child, stuff that was supposed to kill me, because I didn't die, it sutured me on the inside, and my immune system then became this like beast. Okay, so I was barely sick, and I told myself, and I say that because throughout my upbringing, I barely went to doctors. I literally, I would get sick with like things that kids in school would have to be off for a week over. And I would get the initial symptoms of that thing, that flu, that cough, that thing that was spreading between us all. And I would come to school sniffing, and after 3 days, it'll be gone. Without me taking cough syrup, without me taking antibiotics, nothing. I just had this like ngakara immune system. I was never a sickly child. And I believe the reason that's the case is because I nearly killed myself as a child, by taking pills and doing strange stuff. Okay. Anyway, whatever. God gave me a strong immune system because of the error of my ways. That's just what I'm getting at. It worked out ultimately. I'm not saying go and destroy yourself so that you can build yourself. You might actually die. But that's what happened. So because my immune system was ngakara, that's one of the biggest reasons why I made a decision to go on a hospital plan, because I didn't think I was gonna get sick, not to a point where I would basically be bordering on hospitalization. That's not what I do. I'm the girl that other kids get absent from school for 3 days, and I come to school because I'm just sniffing and then I'm okay. Stuff just heals itself without even me popping any pills. I don't have to take Corenza C. I don't have to take anything. Med Lemon. I don't need it. I just get better all by myself. That's the way that it's always been with me, until one day until one fateful season in my life at the age of 22, 23, I was met with essentially life throwing me a curveball saying, let's see you come up out of this now. Let's see you recover from this now. Karabo, seeing as you think you're so strong. I thought I was going to be okay. I remember my ex and I used to book into Town Lodge. I told you we were fornicating and whatnot. And I was already sick at the time of booking into that hotel, and I was frankly unable to even be myself the whole time. I hashad because of the fact that we had paid for this day and we were broke. The two of us, we used to like in advance pay, getting a save up to be able to book into these hotels, because none of us had our own apartment, none of us had our own places. We both stayed at home with our parents. So in order to basically sin against God, we would save money for booking into these hotels, into Town Lodge in particular, right? We would bid to stay, and because we had already paid in advance, bidded to stay, I went anyway. I was literally vomiting. So the whole time, essentially, my boyfriend was out here, you know, on some there, you'll be okay. He had to like feed me and whatnot. It was horrible. Like I was sick in front of him. Anyway, and booked into this hotel. Like it was bad. It was bad. And I remember even saying to him, I think I might be pregnant. Anyway, whatever. So here it is that we're in the, oh goodness, it's hot. It's hot. Here it is that I am sick like this. A week progresses. I tell myself that please, my body, ngakara, it's what has been happening all throughout my life. My body just comes up for air. I just get defibrillated. It's what happens. It's been happening all my life. I'm the girl that goes to school when other kids are missing in class because I'm the one that recovers by myself with no medication. So I told myself that which has been happening all my life is just going to keep happening. So I ignore the doctor, right? I ignore the prospect of going to see a doctor. Don't have money. I'm in that dry season where it is that all you have left is taxi money and you can't afford to lose a rand. You can't afford to lose even 1 cent. We save for the last day that you're going to commute before payday. And I used to work for a bank, so we used to get paid on the 20th, right? I was waiting. Maybe it could have been now, maybe Bomadi, like 13 or something. Like, you know, that week or two before payday where you are empty. That's where I was at. And both my ex and I were there. We were running on reserves. That's what's good. So here it is that I'm dry. And my mom was one of those people on some, hey, you got your own, every man for himself. You, what you call this, you've got a job. I'm not about you going to be paying your way. Figure your way out. So I didn't want to bother my mom. I didn't want to bother my mom either, right? At the time I was staying with her. Here it is that I'm out here sick, thinking that I'm going to recover. Or here it is that Yakula, thinking that I'm going to recover by myself. And then I write it out. A week, like, progresses, like a couple of days progresses. And even on the day when my ex-boyfriend and I went to the town lodge, it was a weekend, right? It was Sunday when we came back. Hey guys, none of us had our own cars. So we were commuting with public transportation. I was sleeping on his lap throughout the taxi ride. My mom has always loved to buy properties that are 10,000 kilometers away from the taxis, where the taxis drop you off. So it has always been a ridiculous walk from where the taxi drops off to home, like maybe 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers. Like, yeah, my mom has just always bought these weird homes where that was a thing for me. Okay, yeah. And my ex and I then walked right in the blazing sun. It was so hot. It was so hot. We even took a double up. He saw that if we don't take a double up, and a double up, the shortcut. The shortcut that we took was a dangerous shortcut. We never would have taken it if at all it wasn't for my condition. There were stories of these bushes of people having been mugged, robbed, raped, and whatnot. And my ex and I took that detour anyway because I was literally passing away. He was not exactly a bodybuilder that could carry me from the taxis all the way home. He was just a regular skinny guy in and of himself, was in his 20s, whatnot. There was nothing that my ex could do other than really just like the two of us telling the shortest route to get you home type thing. So I get off the taxi. I can't lie on his lap. I have to walk vomiting. I have to walk sick. I'm just like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm coughing and I am bilious too. I'm vomity and I'm weak. And then over and above all that weakness, there is this blazing sun. Okay, it's summer and I just can't deal with the heat now. There's like heat exhaustion all up in my fingertips and in my bones. And we're walking through these bushes from the place where the taxi drops us off, trying to pick up pace as fast as possible so we can get home. It's really hard, but I know that there's no way that I'm gonna lie down on the floor go parking. I'm not gonna lie down on the floor in the bushes. I'm not gonna lie down on the floor in the street. I gotta just keep striving. But y'all, try to walk when you're sick. I've had experiences in my life where because of a lack of transportation, because of a lack of a car, of my mom or the domestic worker or whatever, I have had to walk. It wasn't the first time I've had to walk to a clinic that was very, very far away. Like as a child, like my experiences are so similar all throughout my life. Like it's weird. Like vomiting as a little girl, and the domestic worker can only carry me for like maybe 1 kilometer. After that, she gets tired and has to put me down, and I gotta walk and take a car. It's like, it's been a thing. All right. Okay, I had to use the bathroom in the middle there. I was pressed to pee. So if I'm huffing and puffing, that's about. Anyway, whatever, y'all. So it's been a thing. Like I've had experience like similar circumstances in my life that have happened. It's almost as if though the Lord has been foreshadowing an eventual time in my life that would come. He has been foreshadowing it for a minute through multiple instances to show me the culmination of all of that predestination, I guess. All of that pre-preparation, I guess, for one set time. When I was indeed like maybe 4 or 5 years old, I also came down with something horrible. I was very, very sick. My mom and was still staying at my grandmother's house because after she, and maybe it could be 5, 6, I don't know. My dad and her were already divorced at that stage, and we were being taken care of by the domestic worker during the day when my mom was at work and what have you. And I got really sick, and my mom gave the domestic worker money to take me to Tladi Clinic. Tladi is where we used to stay, to take me to Tladi Clinic, which is a public facility, a public clinic that actually was actually quite excellent. Anyway, whatever. So this domestic worker, Ostrogina, carried me for the majority of the journey. I was a young enough child for her to humpepa, you know, but she was also in the like blazing sun. She was also walking kilometers upon kilometers. Plus, I was not so young that I would be so light that she can carry me like a baby all the way to wherever. So she had to every so often let me down, you know, to walk by myself. And during the times when I was walking, guys, it was just like the stuff of movies. It would be so sad to see it, like vomiting on the side, and her being like askisi, and then picking me up after the vomiting and then putting me down again, because the journey was literally that ridiculous. It was that far. She had to walk because there was no taxi route from where it is that we stayed in Tladi to Tladi Clinic. It was literally several kilometers, but there was no taxi route connecting that. So we had to walk, and that whole same thing happened yet again when I was now 23. And this time around, instead of it being my domestic worker, it's my boyfriend. And my boyfriend ain't got the kinds of muscles that a man would need to carry a woman perhaps 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers to where it is that she's walking. So all we leaned on was this double up, this shortcut. Okay, and went through the bushes and everything while I was busy vomiting, taking a break to breathe, vomiting. Ultimately, I get home, right? Yeah, my mom knew my boyfriend and everything, and because I was as sick as I had told myself that this thing is gonna leave on its own. All right, it's weekend now, so I'm not at work. I'm telling myself, "Uti zos hambela this thing." I get home, my mom sees Uti nyakula. And usually my mom never used to let my boyfriend and I be in my bedroom together for obvious reasons, right? But this time around, so she let my boyfriend at the time, she let my boyfriend basically keep me company while I was lying in bed, because first I was like lying on the couch, right in front of her eyes, because I get hang out you and your boyfriend where I can see you. That's basically my mom's rules, right? So I was in the lounge lying down on the couch while my boyfriend was just kind of sitting there, and my mom was like, "You can go sleep in your bedroom, you know, you can go you can go and sleep on the bed because I can see that you're not okay." So I went and I slept in my bedroom, and my boyfriend was there with me essentially for like maybe an hour or two before he then left and went home, right? Went back home to where he stays, type setup thing. And that's the way that I was on Sunday basically the day before work. I was not about to call in sick, because in order to call in sick on a Monday, you gotta have a doctor's note. Plus, call centering, everybody is suspected of, you know, ill behavior, irresponsible activity when you're still at that lowly position in terms of your career in corporate. Until you've proven yourself worthwhile. And I was not working at that company for long enough for me to be out here just being absent on Mondays, right? So I basically go to work, kill it like that on Monday. I went to work literally just like that on Monday. I'm out here. I use public transport, so I don't have a car. And my mom lives kilometers from the taxi rank, like proper from the taxis where I catch them. She's been that woman to buy homes that far from where it is that I catch taxis, okay? Yeah, I walk in the morning to the taxi, guys, sick, vomiting on my way to work. In the taxi, I'm hoping that I don't vomit in the taxi all the way up until we get to Brie. I then have to walk over the Mandela Bridge, because you all know that I didn't have to walk over the Mandela Bridge. I used to go Bram Park, Le Bridge, so the taxi would drop me off around Wits University, and then I would like walk, right? I then walk there. Thankfully, it wasn't all the way. I didn't go all the way to Brie, and then get to the office, clock in, at least go officing. I sit down. I'm sitting in a chair. But it made no difference. If it was not for God's grace, He's just always been so amazing. But before I even knew Him, He's been taking care of me for a minute. But these stories foreshadow literally a future that ultimately I would endure, and how it is that God would rescue me time and time again in very similar states. Yeah, I go to the bathroom, right? I ask for a bathroom break during my job. I go in the middle of my job, during my job, I go to the bathroom, and this time, yo, guys, I was horrifically sick, like terribly. And thankfully, at the same time that I needed to use the toilet, the bathroom, to vomit, like I was literally just going to go vomit. Yeah. During the same time that I go to the bathroom, my boss lady, right, the girl, it was a woman and a man that were my bosses at that call center, and it was a woman that decided that she needed to use the bathroom too. So she goes to the bathroom, and something, I don't know if it was like my shoe or something that was sticking out from underneath the cubicle, she saw it and recognized it, and then knocked, and she was like, Karabo, are you in there? I'm like, yes, you know. And she's like, what's wrong? I can tell. I was lying on the floor. I was lying on the floor for like a minute, telling myself that I gotta recuperate, right? I was like, I'm sick, I'm vomiting, and I don't know what's wrong. And she was like, why didn't you tell me? You can't be at work like this, go home. I was so relieved, but it was also with my boss being like, go home, that I realized that this thing's been lingering all week. It's not going anywhere. And I'm also busy coughing. I need to see a doctor, all right? Like, I have got to see a doctor, for crying out loud. So I made a decision from my job, because I left in the mid, like maybe when that happened, it was perhaps like half past 11, 12 in the afternoon at work. So it was still basically practices were open, doctors' offices were still open at that stage. I made a decision that even though I'm left with just enough money to commute, just enough money to take taxis to and from work for the rest of the month, I am going to use my money to take myself to a doctor, right? I'm gonna use my money to take myself to a doctor, and then I'll ask my mom, or angtuse type thing, because I thought my mom would be like, oh, you've got your own job, you must pay your own way, type thing. I thought my mom would do that, but then I was like, she'll understand. Oh, by the way, I had gone to like a chemist, seeing as I was coughing. I went and I bought Vicks VapoRub to put on my chest to loosen the cough, and I also went and got over-the-counter like cough mixtures and stuff. I finally did that because I initially was not self-medicating. I then self-medicated and nothing was working. And yeah, so I was out here, a woman inhaling Vicks VapoRub every couple of hours in the evenings. I finally decided to stop at a doctor's offices, right? Instead of at home. Like the taxis dropped me. Like the way it is that this doctor that I went to was perhaps 2 robots from where it is that I got off. So I got off 2 robots earlier by the KFC to go to a doctor's office. And the thing in this doctor's office, I only decided to go there because I remembered that there's a doctor's office there, because when we were driving past it, when my mom was driving past it, it said Dr. this, right? So I knew that there was a general practitioner there. It's not that I had ever been there before. I did not have a personal doctor. I not anybody that I trusted. Plus, I was not on medical aid. Plus, I had not needed to go to a doctor, but I knew that there was a doctor's offices there. So I stopped. So I went there, and just basically without an appointment, right? I went to that doctor's office without an appointment in the afternoon, and thankfully he was open, he was available to see me. That doctor, I asked at the reception, because you gotta find out, because you're about to part ways with money you don't have. How much is it? And indeed it was about like 250 to 300 bucks for a consultation. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll pay for that. I've got the money. This doctor sees me, right? His office is empty at that particular moment. He's got all the time in the world essentially to cater to my needs. He is around, all right? And there's no client coming inside, at least not for a few minutes. You can actually do proper checks on me. Here it is that this doctor asks me, okay, so what's up? I tell him my symptoms. I'm coughing, I'm vomiting, I'm feverish. I actually got let off work. I got given a reprieve to get out of work, precisely because I couldn't even sit up in my chair, and my boss gave me an opportunity to come see you, so yeah, I basically explained what's going on and what's been happening and for how long it's been going on. And I'm literally like drowsy in front of him. I'm a mess. I am outwardly a mess. I am visibly a mess. This doctor then, upon looking at because you know how when the receptionist at the doctor's offices will make you fill out forms, he looks at my forms, realizes that I don't have medical aid. I am on a hospital plan. He then asks me again, so you've only got he literally looked at me in the face and said to me, so you've only got a hospital plan. This is a man, the Hippocratic oath, and never mind that, but all these oaths that these doctors make, among them is do no harm. Do no harm. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if you can tell that a person is dying, you better let them know at least. And if you can, like, he did not want to be responsible with me. He did not want to be responsible, but this man knew I had something hectic. And you could tell with his apprehension and how he was shuffling in his body. But he knew that the thing that was hectic was not going, like, a person with my lowly job, only on a hospital plan, was just not going to be able to afford it. So I was just another number to this man, y'all. I was just another number. He looked at me, looked at my forms, realized that I was not on medical aid, and then was like, how are you going to get your prescription? I was like, cash, I'm going to be paying it for myself. He then was like, what do? I tell him I'm a call center agent. He realizes that this is a woman that doesn't have the resources to pay for what it is that is actually the medical help that she needs. So what did this man do? This doctor, yo, he did not do, like, just for my symptoms alone, he asked me these deep questions. Never mind, during the time when I'm telling him my symptoms, I'm also literally emanating them. I'm exuding them. They're coming. So I'm in his office and I'm coughing, and my cough is like, yeah, like, muto, bronchi. It's like somebody walking up with the kind of cough that you get on COVID with coronavirus. And then they're out here trying to, like, slide it under the cup. Yo, dogs, I was dying. Okay. And this man could hear that I had something serious going on. He did not even grab, not even a stethoscope, guys. He did not grab that thing that he listens to a chest when you breathe. Inhale, so he could gauge the amount of phlegm, whether or not your what's in there. You know, is it dry? Is it wet? We don't know. This man did not check my temperature. He did not put anything in my mouth. He did not put, like, nothing. You know, the things that a doctor generally does, like blood pressure, all that stuff that you would collect, getting the temperature of a person, all the things that a doctor does at a minimum when you go and see him or her. He did not do any of that. He didn't do any of that. He just listened to me coughing. He saw my poverty, or at least my want, you know, my lowliness financially, the fact that I don't have medical aid. What would have been the right thing to do by this man, seeing as he was in no position to cater to me comprehensively as he ought have, given my financial situation, was immediately recommend that I go to a public hospital. He should have at least said, go to Helen Joseph. He should have at least said, go to this particular public clinic, because this here is something that without medical aid, you're not going to be able to cater to. He should have done at least that. If at all, I mean, you don't have insurance, Karabo, you don't have medical aid. Okay, but there are public facilities in South Africa that if you don't go to one of them as in day before yesterday, you're dead. He could have done that. But this man was too lazy for me. Well, now, like, bora. Anyway, whatever. This man did not do any checks. All that he did was immediately write me a prescription. He immediately wrote me a prescription, and in this prescription was cough syrup alongside antibiotics, right? That I would then have to take for however long, and hopefully then I would come around and be okay. Okie dokie then. So I go to the Clicks, Discam, whatever, right, to purchase my prescription. Yet more money that I don't have, but I am spending it because I'm telling myself that I'll ask my mom for transport money, given that I had to use it for meds, right? The antibiotics weren't that expensive, and neither was the cough syrup. I could afford them with my little budget. And then I went home and I immediately started taking the meds. I also was given 2 or 3 days. Now I was given 2 days off from work, right? So I of course called my boss the next day, pretty much the same day, and I let him know that I've been let off for 2 days. I'll be in on this particular day. So I was given 2 days sick leave by this doctor, and I imagined that I would now soon start recovering. Right, I would soon start recovering from my little disease, whatever it is that is going on. I take the antibiotics. You all know, guys, that if you have got some kind of an illness that needs antibiotics are like a miracle worker like that, right? So within a day, you will start to feel immediately better. You will start to feel better. That's why they say you must finish the course, because you tend to feel better before the illness is cleared from your body. Nothing happened, y'all. Nothing happened. I was still coughing all night long. I was still vomiting. I was still inhaling Vicks vapor up from a bucket. And one day when my mom came back to work, you know, like, my mom has generally tended to be kind of blasé and nonchalant concerning me. Every man for himself, you know, leave it in a corner to thrive. But like, when things look like they are dire and serious, she would like, wait, she's had that. It's been a trend throughout history where it is that because I was always used to my mom's very blasé way of dealing with me, I never bothered her whenever I had problems. But then she was made to observe herself that, okay, this is serious, right? And her, I guess you can call it a maternal instinct. And what I also imagine is God being like, hey, woman, this time it's not just a fleeting cough. It's not just because it's happened before. Like where it is that I was coughing, and my mom ignored it until it got so hectic that she finally took me to a doctor. That's just how it's always been with my mom. Kind of standoffish until it gets kind of serious. And because I was not recovering, despite my sick leave, despite my whatnot, one day my mom came into my bedroom and she was like, wait again, Karabo, I can like this thing that's all up in your grill is I can tell. And how to so this then becomes the part where it is that she's prepared to help me out as well financially. She's like, go to Dr. Jusab, right? So you're probably wondering, who's Dr. Jusab? There is this general practitioner that we have had in the family pretty much since I could remember. I believe he catered to our needs even when we were babies, right? He's just been the doctor. He was my grandmother's apartheid doctor, an Indian man, right? He was my grandmother's doctor. And so therefore he became my mom's and my uncle's and my aunt's doctor. And so therefore my mother, when we were kids growing up, whenever we needed medical attention, she would always go to Jusab, right? He was a family doctor. He knew us. And like I said, from the days of apartheid, he was my grandmother's doctor. He was younger than my grandmother, though. He wasn't grandmother age. He was more the age of my mom. But he was my grandmother's doctor. Indian man. He was my grandmother's doctor and therefore our doctor. Okay. This man, and we'd known him all our lives, right? Type setup thing. Excellent doctor. And he was at the time based in downtown Johannesburg, right? This man, my mom, when she saw what was going on with me, upon also knowing that Karabo had medical aid, she doesn't have medical aid, and this situation is serious. She's been given antibiotics and they ain't doing jack. Like they've made no difference in her life. I feel like my child might actually be dying over here. So when I let doctor that also loves us, he is our family doctor. He would be bereaved if anything happened to us. He is a man that has developed a connection with us through literally generations, through grandmother, then my mother, then us. He raised us. He was the doctor that saw us come from age 4 to 5 to 7 to 16. He's that doctor. He's not going to be apathetic. Even if you don't have money, even if you are, kind of short on the ability to pay, he's not going to ignore that because you are his clients from the days of apartheid, for crying out loud, the latter part of apartheid. Yeah, that's what's good. Juice up. So my mom said, Eya go juice up. She said, go Eya go juice up. Get alpha chelete ya no patala consultation. Mara Eya go juice up. Go to juice up. Go to Dr. Juice up. I will give you the money to pay for the consultation. I'll give you the taxi fare and all that jazz. Don't worry. So my mom is out now loving me, right? And I'm feeling really good now on some she's paying attention to the fact that I'm not okay type thing. I go to Juice Up. I'm still sick. I did all these trips all by myself, still in the taxi. I'm still vomiting and whatnot. I get to the offices, go Juice Up, right? And lo and behold, that doctor, as at that date, had the same secretary all throughout our upbringing. Like she literally grew up there. She started out as a young woman and now she was a woman, a middle-aged woman with like a husband and children and everything. And she recognized me immediately when I walked in. How's grandmother? How's mom? Okay, I was like, grandmother's late now. How's mom? How's this? How's what fish paste? Nah, right. I'm coughing. And then she basically, I signed forms and everything. And then here it is that I'm about to see the doctor. I enter the offices and he also recognizes me. How you doing? How's school? How's this? How's that? Right? And I'm like, are you still in school? Are you still studying? Okay. How's your mom? Blah, blah. What, the whole thing. Get that out of the way, the formalities. And the doctor, right? As I'm busy talking to him, first of all, he asks me like any other doctor would, what are your symptoms? What are your symptoms? He asks me, what are your symptoms? And I tell him. And as I am telling him my symptoms, he's like, oh my goodness. And he's also listening to me and he's telling me cough, and I cough. I cough. I release that heinous sounding nkaragele box cough, and he's like, oh my. He takes out all his paraphernalia and then gives me like a cup and says, go and then urinate in this cup. I go and I urinate in the cup, and then he tests that urine like ever so immediately, types it up thing, right? Takes all different kinds of tests, like blood pressure, whatever a doctor does, right? He did all that on me. And then he grabs his little stethoscope thing, puts it on my chest, and listens to my cough, and he's like, yo. Like, literally, the look on that man's face was horror. He was in shock that I took that long to get to him. He was like, what in the world? Like, I basically had an advanced stage of pneumonia. I told the doctor, I was like, I thought I was pregnant, but I did a pregnancy test and it came back negative. But I mean, it can't just be pregnancy because I'm vomiting. I'm not just vomiting, but I'm also coughing and I'm weak. Like, physically, my body was very, very weak. He literally responded with a yo, like, whoa, why did you take so long? I was like, I didn't. Well, okay, maybe I might have tried to self-medicate initially, but I did go to a doctor and he gave me antibiotics. And these are the antibiotics, and he looked at them and wagged his head. When he looked at the antibiotics that the other doctor gave me, he was like, he basically wagged his head on some, this is not going to do anything for you. You have got an advanced stage of pneumonia, and if you had come to me literally 1 day later, we would have had to hospitalize you. If you had come to me 1 day later, we would have had to hospitalize you. He told me that I was basically dying, and that what attention was given me before was not really attention. So that was God, right? Leading my mom to take a situation more seriously than it was, because he had a plan for me in the future. God, even though I was not yet his disciple, made my mom realize that your daughter is in danger and there is nobody else, even though she does not have medical aid, okay, that is going to cater to the needs of your child's medical situation other than a lifelong family doctor that is going to not be too concerned about the fact that your daughter's medical aid is not going to pay comprehensively to what medication she needs. You need a man that is going to recognize that it is do no harm, never mind do no harm, but care enough to not let it be a big issue that your daughter does not have the money to pay for those antibiotics. For never mind just the antibiotics, but the full suite of how much it would cost to basically recover me to health. The thing that made that other doctor essentially even refuse to do any test on me and just give me some whatever generalistic antibiotic that did nothing for me, like that thing that was going on inside me was so hectic that it did not respond to the initial antibiotics. So it was essentially like a superbug. Do you understand what I'm saying? And here it is that I'm dealing with another doctor, or another doctor's dealing with me, and he is shocked and is telling me that if I was not there 1 day earlier, if I had rocked up even a day later, I would have had to be hospitalized, that I was essentially on a deathbed. I was dying, guys. I would have died outside of Christ and gone to hell. Anyway, I would have passed away, and my ex would have been probably so traumatized because he would never have imagined that in the hotel, and the thing that the thing that caused me to be let off work early on one particular day would result in the death of his girlfriend. He would have been devastated because the guy had already lost his brother too. So like he would have just been shocked to go to anyway, whatever. This thing was killing me. I was dying, and you know how people like that, like if you leave a disease, a sickness of that nature alone, people tend to pass away one danger fella in their sleep. They tend to just not wake up. They collapse and they just don't recover. Like that's what happened with my grandmother. Actually, my grandmother passed away from that kind of advanced stage of pneumonia. And she one day was sleeping, and then while my cousin was busy doing whatever around her, she took one last breath and just died because the pneumonia was that hectic. Even though she was on antibiotics and everything, chances are with my grandmother, it's because she was already late, like advanced stages. She was old. She was already old, and her immune system was probably already just kind of messed up and whatnot. But the same thing that killed my grandmother, that nobody expected her to just suddenly die because she was on medication. She was supposed to come back. She was supposed to recover. It took her. And my cousin, shocked out of his mind, watched my grandmother die, taking one last breath and just pass away. Next thing we are just getting a phone call, right? The same thing that killed my grandmother nearly killed me at just 24. Okay? So I was gonna one day just take a breath while I'm sleeping at night and then pass away. My mom was gonna wake up and everybody was gonna be screaming in the house because Karabo passed away. We didn't know that it was that hectic, but she's gone. Yeah, but God had another plan. God wanted to call me. God had plans for me. I was not supposed to die. I was in my sins. I was not supposed to go to hell. I was supposed to do what I'm now doing. Okay, I was supposed to live through it. But I have been at the precipice of death before. So Dr. Jusab then gave me some super bug like I went home with like a plastic of medication. Like a heavy plastic of medication. He then gave me the whole week. He said, you cannot go back to work. You have to recover. You have to rest, right? He gave me the whole week off, the rest of the week off. So basically that other the other sick leave note from the other doctor just got swallowed up and made null and void by the new one. So I had to take the whole week off, okay? The whole week I was off these medications. No, sorry, the whole week I was off work. And not only did the doctor find that extreme case of pneumonia in me, but he also found that I had a urinary tract infection too. And he attributed the urinary tract infection to the sun. Remember, I was walking in the blazing sun. He said that this thing that you've got, when it comes together with too much heat, it can cause something going on in your body. He explained it. I didn't understand exactly, but I had a urinary tract infection. And he put me on something for that alongside recommending. That's why I fell in love with cranberries, by the way. That's when he recommended to me that you need to drink cranberry juice or take cranberry pills and what have you. And ever since then, I've just been in love with cranberries because they are a woman's health gem, right? That's why my name is Cranberry K. Anywho, it started from that time. He recommended, he prescribed those. Not only did this doctor, listen to this, right? He didn't just prescribe all this stuff to me. He gave me the medication. He gave me the medication. Y'all need to understand, this doctor diagnosed my illness appropriately, made it clear that this is a dire strait, a dire situation, understood that I'm broke, I'm poor, and that's likely why after all these years I went to him. When days are dark, friends are few, where when you abandon your OG GP, because Oko downtown Joburg and Wamunyaza, you busy going to all these other ones in Lani and then suburbia, and you abandon the one that's actually really truly got your back, but now when you're dying without medical aid, you go back to him type thing. That's what we did over there. And he gave me the prescription. He's one of those doctors that have meds on their property to dispense. They you know how some doctors actually have stashes of medication that they can dispense to a person. They not only prescribe, but they're like low-key a chemist in and of themselves. The doctor gave me every last thing I needed. Understand, I only paid like $250 for the consultation, but he gave me medication for free, like he was a public dispensary, a public hospital. He gave me every last pill that I needed to take, including the cranberry pills, the medication for the urinary tract infection, the super bug antibiotics, the thing to restore my liquids, like whatever it is that was. I went home with a plastic bag, full of medication and instructions as to how to take it. This doctor not only treated me, took all took my situation very seriously, but he also finished the job. He was like a Christ figure that way. He was, you know how Christ is called our heavenly physician? Physician, heal thyself. And so speaking of the Son of Man, he is our healer. It is written in God's word that by the stripes of Jesus Christ we are healed. The King of the universe, our Lord God, is the be-all and end-all of our true healer. And God is the one that will send you to places you underestimate or the lowliest of environments to get the healing that you need. Environments that you have abandoned, neglected, or imagined are not going to do anything for you will be the ones recommended for your deliverance. And just when you're at the precipice of death and everybody else is making like the Pharisees walking right by, the man that's dying and bleeding out on the side of the street, there will be an unseemly good Samaritan, a person that is not of the Pharisee persuasion. He is not a Jew, but he is a man that has enough compassion to basically not let a man die on the side of the street, abandoned. He will send somebody that unseemly, somebody that you don't expect, is going to be the one that's going to comprehensively cater to your recovery, to your comprehensive healing. And this person will expect nothing but your presence. Essentially, they will understand the job, the mission from God the moment you walk in. They will have a thorough comprehension that what I must do over here is what is right, instead of thinking about my pockets. A child is dying that I basically raised as a doctor. And whether or not this kid is, not yet where she needs to be in life, and so she's got just a call center job that does not have medical aid full comprehensive. There's that sound again. Even though this kid does not have comprehensive medical aid, at the end of the day, I am not about to, with a clear conscience, let a child die on my watch. I might have been 23, 24, but to him I was like a child, right? I told you he was like mother age. He was like the age of my parents. Anyway, this doctor catered to my needs fully, and he is, like I said, a type. Like the Lord puts typologies of his deliverance for his saints all throughout society. All right. They're all over the show. The foreshadowing of what he's going to do for his children in the scriptures has often been through earlier times than that. Like Moses was a type of Christ, evidencing how God is going to set his people free, and how it is that Christ had to be hidden. Joseph was a type of Christ. David was a type of Christ. You get my point? Until ultimately we dealt then with the actual Christ, the real Lord, right? Type setup thing. So all throughout our lives, we also are given types of Christ, in the sense that the Lord will always set up men or women in society in certain positions in order that they might come in really nice and handy at a time when the person of the promise, the child of the promise, the Moses, the David, the Joseph, that needs to be hidden for a season and made to survive until they can walk in the fullness of their purpose. Yeah, to cater to those needs. God will always raise somebody up to hide Moses from Pharaoh's decree, hide, David from the wrath of Saul, hide David from the wrath of Absalom, you get my point, guys, right? Yeah, he does that even with modern day. He's still doing the same thing. It's written in God's word in the book of Ecclesiastes that there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun, right? So therefore, there is nothing new under the sun. So therefore, what Christ has done before, he's going to keep on doing it. How it is that he calls his children and what he intends to do with those children later on. There tends to be something in your past, if you can look back at it, that happened that foreshadows something that is much bigger than what happened in the past at a grander scale, but with similar nuances, similar undertones, similar ways in which the situation unfolds, unravels. And then you see, whoa, from long ago, God has been showing you a prophetic foreshadowing of this time that you're in now. And so how this is going to end is similar to the way that it ended back then. You are going to live, you're going to get to the end of it, but you're going to be threatened with death. And there will be apathetic, la-di-da, nonchalant, careless people around you in the run-up to when you are on your deathbed, when you are dying. They will not care to cater to you. When you are dying, they will ignore your situation. They will know how serious the situation is, but they will do nothing. But the Lord will raise up somebody that's going to siren an alarm or recognize that this here is a dire enough situation for somebody to now finally do something. This individual will likely snap out of being complacent. They will likely snap out of the negligence that they generally are in, and see how dire the situation is, spot it for what it is. And in this instance, it was my mom, who generally was kind of la-di-da blase where I'm concerned, letting me just merely exist. But then she's the one that was like, no, you gotta go to juice up. The Lord will always cause somebody to snap out of being blase, and then this person will be the one that will ultimately lead you to the individual that will rightly diagnose you. And then, even though you have nothing to your name, also prescribe, not only prescribe, but also give you that which is going to heal your brokenness, that which is going to open, patch up your wounds. Okay, that's it. That foreshadowing will have happened in the past, and the way that it happens at the opportune time, basically all the simulations of history. Now this is the live environment. When you're in the live environment, you will have had multiple events happen in history that foreshadowed this pinnacled moments in history that will have foreshadowed the moment of truth, the one that is the be all and end all of the final story. Christ was the final story at the cross, but Moses was a type of Christ. Joseph was a type of Christ. David was a type of Christ. So many of God's disciples were types of Christ, but Christ was the be all and end all of the ultimate sacrifice, right? The Lord was the ultimate sacrifice, but then there were others in history that foreshadowed him. And so we find healing in the fact that God does not leave nor forsake us. And even when there is a blasé, nonchalant, kind of negligent atmosphere around you, the Lord will snap a person out of something at the opportune time. And he will also send you where it is that somebody is going to not be pedantic about silly things. They're not going to be pedantic about the fact that you're not on medical aid. They're not going to be pedantic about the fact that you haven't been here for years. Now, all of a sudden, because you need help, you're coming to your old school GP. They're not going to be pedantic. They're just going to understand the mission. And they're going to pat you up and they're going to send you home, and they're not going to expect anything. They will recognize that they've been put in the position to be there to heal the wounds of someone that the Lord had never ever intended should pass away. That this person was not supposed to die. They're supposed to walk in their calling, in the fullness of their purpose. I was yet to know the Lord back then, but I had a call on my life. and I would ultimately respond to it at the age of 26. But at the time, I was a sinner, and I didn't realize that God rescued me back then in the same way that he's going to just keep rescuing me for the moment of truth. All right, yeah. So Jusab gave me all that medication, and lo and behold, just as indeed I have always suspected, antibiotics work almost immediately. Within a day, you feel so much better. You're right as rain. Within a day, the medications, even though I underestimated them, that's the thing, right? After Jusab gave me the meds, right, he rightly diagnosed me. As soon as I started taking the meds that he gave me, I underestimated them because I thought, the other doctor gave me antibiotics and I didn't recover. Jusab also gave me, by the way, his number personally and said that if you don't recover, call me. If you don't find yourself getting better after a couple of days, call me. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Doesn't matter what time of night it is. I'll come through. That's how serious the situation was. That's how worried he was about me. And that's how much he said to, remember he told me that if I had not gone to him a day, or if I had gone to him a day later, I would have had to be hospitalized. This is a man that knew that I didn't have medical, I was on a hospital plan. So if I had gotten hospitalized, I probably would have gotten the comprehensive care that I needed, right? Type of establishment thing, but he did not want it to get to the point of hospitalization. He was trying to avoid hospitalization. So he gave me his number personally and said, call me should things fall out of whack, and I got you back type thing. But I didn't need to. What medication he gave me was enough. But he had put himself in a position to essentially respond to me the way that a doctor ought to respond to his patient should the situation have gotten worse, because he saw that I was literally that advanced in this illness. Even though I underestimated his medication, because the first doctor's medication didn't work. Do you understand? It worked, however, literally within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, I was feeling better. I was walking up and down in the kitchen, pouring some orange juice, etc. I was no longer basically crawling around the house. I was walking. I was breathing better. I was still coughing and was getting disgusting now because the cough was being broken up and I was being phlegmy, but I was healthy. I could sit now and sit up on the couch watching TV. Whereas before I would have to be scrunched up, like my stomach was hurting. I stopped vomiting, all that within just 24 hours. I was like, whoa, look at me recovering. And I felt so good for feeling better, because when you're sick, you know how you hate being inside your own body. So I immediately recovered. So what is the moral of that particular story is that where it is that, like, if you've suffered for so long and if you've endured so much apathetic treatment of your person, if you've been disregarded for so long by people, and if you have been inappropriately reacted to in a sorrow or in a sickness, when finally the true solution, the true salva, the true salve on your open wound rocks up, the true bandages, when they truly come to truly heal you, you will undermine them, because it's written in God's word that hope deferred makes the heart sick. And a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. But a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. So when people have been ignoring you, and every avenue of help for your sickness that you have gone through has only ever borne thistles and thorns instead of, like, honey and milk, you will think, "Ay, Suga, this is yet another thing that is going to make me have to go to another GP that's a little bit more reliable." And so you will be pleasantly surprised when your longings get fulfilled, because your heart was made sick with unbelief. Your heart was made to feel as if, though, I've been there, done that, over and over for years I've been suffering. Nothing's going to give. Nothing's going to give. You will undermine the final doctor that God has set apart until it becomes clear that, okay, this was the one that God truly gave me. So you will slowly but surely start to trust again. You will slowly but surely realize when you are recovering that this is it. Breakthrough, when it comes to a saint, tends to be that way. You tend to have gone through so many almosts, so many hits and misses, so many mishaps that looked promising, however, initially, right? You will have gone through all of that and undermined. My battery is running out. Like, you're killing me. What in the world is going on? You will have tended to undermine okay, let me just speak for the last few minutes, and then I'll finish this message after my phone charges for a little bit longer. Okay, yeah, you will have tended to underestimate what under heaven it is that is the thing that is now actually truly healing you. You will have been inclined to underestimate it, but it will be clear over time that this was the real deal. Okay, so I don't lose my train of thought, I am chilling in front of the sliding door in the house with the phone plugged to a charger. Yeah, that I'm telling. So we're good. It's a bit loud with birds chirping outside. It's very, very distracting. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, no. Yes, I was speaking about how it is that sometimes you underestimate when God ultimately brings your breakthrough. You underestimate that this is what it is because you've already been through so many hits and misses, so many failed moments of rescue, so many things that looked promising, that looked like this is it, and then next thing it's not it. Next thing it's fool's gold. Next thing it's a trick. It's a counterfeit. It's a counterfeit. So you will have gone through so many counterfeits in the run up to your ultimate breakthrough that you will literally underestimate the real deal when it does finally come. When you are finally met with the opportunity that is the one that God was doing, the thing that God was doing all along, when that finally comes through, you will be inclined to imagine that this is just another one. And that's what I did with the doctor, right? I underestimated even him, and within 24 hours, and the fact that the healing in my body happened so quickly to a point where I was able to walk around in the house fresh and watch TV and all that jazz, tells you as well that how God tends to work even with breakthrough. He will endure you through the night of weeping. You know how it's written in God's word that the weeping may endure for the night, joy comes in the morning. You will endure weeping for the whole entire night, and that night will be very, 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 very long. It will be feats that you will have had to endure with there appearing to be nothing coming for you in sight on the left and on the right, until such time that when the sun finally rises and light starts to pierce into your curtains, you will be inclined to think that it's not really the sun but artificial light. You will be inclined to think that it's somebody shining a torch into your house, or somebody, you know that saying, don't be so happy to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It might just be an oncoming train. You might be tempted to think that it's an oncoming train instead of it being you actually piercing out into a civilization again when you were in a dungeon, a ditch, buried for years on end. Yeah, you will underestimate it, right? So there's always a season of